I never thought I'd crash my own father's 30th wedding anniversary by showing up as his golden boy heir. But here I was, staring at my reflection in the elevator mirror. Broad shoulders, tailored tucks, and that smug jawline that screamed old money. The invite said it was a business event, code for no riffraff like Stella allowed, but in this skin, I was the riffraff's worst nightmare. I'd swapped souls with my brother Ethan last week in a desperate ritual born from a voodoo shop in the village, and tonight, I'd make them all choke on their caviar lies. It started with the betrayal that gutted me like a Wall Street insider tip gone wrong, Dad's empire built on the bones of my ruined life. A Ponzi scheme I took the fall for because I was the disposable daughter. They buried the secret deep. Ethan's embezzlement. Mom's complicit whispers in boardrooms. All pinned on me while I rotted in a minimum security hellhole upstate for 5 years. But secrets in New York fester like subway rats. And I clawed my way back with a vengeance that would make Scorsese blush. The elevator dinged at the penthouse level of the plaza, and I stepped out into a sea of tuxedos and designer gowns. The kind of crowd where trust funds were the real currency and small talk hid multimillion-dollar mergers. My heart, Ethan's heart, technically, pounded like a bass drop at a rooftop rave. But I smoothed my lapels and flashed that signature Harlan grin, the one that closed deals and broke hearts. Evening. Folks, I said to the valet, who didn't even blink, handing over a coat that smelled faintly of Ethan's cologne, something crisp and expensive like success itself. The ballroom was a glittering cage, crystal chandeliers dripping light like melting diamonds, waiters gliding with trays of beluga and vintage dom, and at the center, my parents, Dad in his Brooks Brothers tux, Mom draped in Chanel that cost more than my old apartment. 30 years of bliss, they called it. But I knew better. Their marriage was a merger. Dad's real estate conglomerate swallowing Mom's family shipping line. And I'd been the glitch they patched over with my blood. I scanned the room for Ethan, my body. Now. Stumbling through some dive bar in Brooklyn. Probably nursing a hangover and wondering why the world felt off-kilter. The swap hadn't been clean. I'd found the old Haitian woman in that Alphabet City shop after months of digging into family lore. Whispers of a great-grandmother's curse from the cotton fields of Louisiana. Soul for soul, she'd rasped, her eyes milky with age, as she pricked my thumb and chanted over a candle flickering with rum and graveyard dirt. One night of agony. Bodies convulsing in separate beds across the city. And poof, I was him. He was me. And tonight, under the guise of fraternal concern, I'd unravel it all. Son, Dad boomed, clapping me on the back hard enough to rattle my teeth. Up close, he smelled like cigars and conquest, his face a map of Botox and broken promises. Ethan, where the hell have you been? We've got the governor here. Big fish for the Hudson Yards project. I forced a chuckle. Low and easy. The way Ethan did when he was bullshitting investors. Just tying up loose ends. Dad. You know me, always one step ahead. Loose ends. Like the forged emails I'd planted in Ethan's inbox this morning. Breadcrumbs leading straight to the offshore accounts where he'd funneled the missing millions. The ones I confessed to. Back when I was Stella Harlan. The black sheep artist who couldn't handle the pressure of the family biz. Mom sidled up, her smile a blade wrapped in silk. Darling, you look tense. Everything all right with that little gallery fling of yours? She meant me, Stella's life. The string of bad dates and worse jobs I'd pieced together post-prison. In her eyes, I was still the failure. The one who'd tanked the family name with my reckless spending. Never mind that it was Ethan's gambling debts. His coke-fueled benders in the Hamptons. That I'd covered for since we were kids. Big sister duty. They called it. Sucker punch. More like. Peachy, I replied, sipping champagne that fizzed like suppressed rage. Just excited for the toast. 30 years, that's a legacy. Legacy. The word tasted bitter. Like the absinthe she'd force-fed me during that intervention 5 years ago, right before the cuffs clicked on. I'd signed the plea deal to keep the family afloat, thinking loyalty meant something in a clan like ours. What a joke. They threw me to the wolves and toasted my absence with the proceeds. The governor approached, a barrel-chested relic with a handshake like a vice. Ethan, my boy, your father's been singing your praises. That rezoning vote? It's gold. I nodded, murmuring agreements about urban renewal and tax breaks, all while my mind raced ahead to the anonymous tip I'd dropped to the SEC this afternoon. By midnight, Ethan's digital trail would light up like Times Square, and Dad's empire would crack like the ice in my glass. But revenge isn't a straight shot. It's a maze of mirrors. And mine had its first fracture when Aunt Lydia cornered me by the dessert table. She was the only one who'd visited me inside, smuggling sketchpads and sob stories about families sticking together.
Now.
Her eyes narrowed behind her bifocals. Ethan, you seem
Off.
like you're wearing someone else's shoes. My stomach flipped. Did she sense it? The swap's residue. That electric hum under the skin? I leaned in, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Just the whiskey talking. Aunt L. Dad's got me on edge with this anniversary nonsense. Feels more like a shareholder meeting than a party. She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. And as she drifted away, I caught her glancing at the doors, as if expecting a ghost. The band struck up Fly Me to the Moon, Sinatra's croon wrapping the room in nostalgic haze. And couples swayed, Dad and Mom front and center, the picture of American dynasty. I watched from the shadows, Ethan's height giving me vantage over the crowd, and for a moment, I almost pitted the shell of Stella out there, fumbling through my old life. But pity's a luxury for the innocent, and I was done with that. Tonight was Act 1, infiltrate, sow, doubt. Watch the fractures spread. As the song swelled, I slipped my phone from my pocket, Ethan's phone, buzzing with a text from S, my old burner number. Miss you at the party. Business only.
Huh.
Screw them. It was me, of course, the real me in limbo. But to anyone peeking, it looked like sibling banter. I typed back, on my way. Got a surprise. Hit send, and deleted the thread. Let them wonder. Dad took the mic then, his voice booming over the speakers like a quarterly earnings call. Ladies and gentlemen, family, friends, to 30 years of building dreams from steel and stone. To my rock, Evelyn, and to our children, who carry the torch. He raised his glass, eyes sweeping the room but skipping the empty space where I should have stood. To the future. The crowd echoed, clinking glasses, but I stayed rooted, glass untouched. Future? Their future was built on my ruins, and I'd burn it down brick by brick. As applause died, I made my move toward the head table, ready to drop the first bomb, a casual mention of that old Harlan Investments glitch, the one that sent me away. Let the ripples start. But before I could open my mouth, the doors burst open, not dramatically, not with thunder, but with the quiet creak of hinges and the shuffle of scuffed boots. There, in the threshold, stood Stella Harlan, me, disheveled in a thrift store dress, eyes wild and accusatory, scanning the room like a cornered animal. Ethan's soul in my body, crashing the uninvited gates. My twin flame, or my undoing. The room froze. A collective inhale sharp as shattered glass. Mom's flute slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Dad's face drained to ash. And Aunt Lydia? She just smiled, slow and knowing, like she'd lit the fuse herself. "What the hell are you doing here?" Dad snarled, storming forward. But Ethan's body, stepped between them, heart slamming. This wasn't the plan. The swap was supposed to give me time, not a 2-for-1 confrontation. Stella, my vessel, pointed a trembling finger at me, voice cracking with Ethan's polished drawl in my raw timbre. "Ask your golden boy. He's the one who's been playing dress-up with my life." Gasps rippled out, whispers igniting like dry tinder. The governor excused himself to the bar. Mom clutched her pearls, literally, as if scandal were a thief in the night. I locked eyes with my former self, seeing the confusion, the dawning horror in those familiar hazel depths. "Ethan, he whispered. And in that moment, the swap's fragility hit me like a freight train from Penn Station. How long until it unraveled? How deep did the betrayal run, if even the vessel knew? I grabbed her arm, my arm, pulling her aside into an alcove draped in velvet curtains. The party's hum muffling our frenzy. "Keep it together," I hissed. Stella's whisper now in Ethan's baritone. "This isn't you. It's the switch. It's temporary." Confusion twisted her features. My features. "Stella? What the fuck did you do?" Ethan's mind piecing it together. The ritual's echo lingering like a bad trip. He lunged, fists balled, but I dodged, pinning him against the wall with strength I'd never known in my slight frame. "Listen," I breathed, close enough to smell my own cheap perfume on him. "They framed me, us, for the fraud. Dad's covering for you. Always has. Tonight, we expose it. Together."
Lie?
Half-truth? Ethan's debts were real. But Dad's hand in burying them? That was the secret I'd unearthed in prison correspondence. Letters from a crooked lawyer who'd flipped for a plea. But if Ethan bought in, we'd be allies. If not. He shoved me off, eyes blazing. "You're insane. This body's wrong. Feels like I'm drowning in estrogen and regret." He straightened his dress, a bitter laugh escaping.
"Fine.
"Play your game. But if it backfires, it's on you, sis." We emerged from the alcove like conjoined twins from a fever dream, the crowd parting as Dad bore down, face thunderous. "Security," he barked. But I held up a hand, Ethan's authority radiating like cologne. "Easy,
Dad.
Stella's here to celebrate. Family reunion, right?" The words dripped sarcasm. And for the first time, I saw the crack in his armor, a flicker of fear. Not anger. "Good. Let it fester." Mom fluttered over, herding us toward a side room, the business annex where deals were sealed in cigar smoke. "Not here," she murmured, voice a silken whip. "We'll handle this privately." The side room was a den of leather armchairs and decanters, walls lined with photos of Harlan triumphs, Dad shaking hands with senators, Mom at galas, Ethan at Yale graduation.
Me?
Cropped out, like a glitch in the frame. We filed in Stella, me,
Mom. Dad.
Aunt Lydia trailing like a shadow. The door clicked shut, sealing us in judgment. "Explain," Dad demanded, pouring scotch with hands that shook just enough to betray him. Stella crossed her arms. My old defiant stance. Why don't you? Calling it a business event to keep me out? After everything? Mom's laugh was brittle. Darling, it's not personal. You're recovering. The optics. Optics. I cut in, Ethan's timbre lending weight. Like pinning the fraud on her to save your ass? I found the emails. Dad. The ones routing funds to Cayman shells. Ethan's name all over them. The room detonated. Stella whipped toward me. Betrayal flashing. What emails? Ethan didn't. Dad's face contorted. A vein pulsing at his temple. You little shit. You think you can waltz in with fairy tales? But his eyes darted to Mom. A silent SOS. Aunt Lydia cleared her throat. The sound like gravel and honey. Perhaps it's time for truths. Harlan. She pulled a slim folder from her clutch. Yellowed pages that smelled of archives and regret. I kept these. Brother. The night of the intervention, Evelyn's idea to drug Stella. Make her sign the confession. Ethan's debts were the spark. But you fanned the flames to protect the empire. Mom gasped, hand to mouth. Dad lunged for the folder. But I snatched it first, flipping through transcripts, witness notes, a scrawled memo in Mom's script. Frame the girl. She's weak. The betrayal sank in, deeper than the swap's disorientation, a chasm swallowing us whole. You bitch, Dad growled at Lydia. But she just smiled. The serpent in the garden. Stella Ethan staggered back.
We.
This can't. His voice broke. My voice. And for a heartbeat, I saw the boy I'd protected. The brother I'd bled for. It's over, I said, voice steady as the Hudson's current. The SEC's got the tip. Your legacy ends tonight. But as Dad's hand crept toward his pocket, phone, or something deadlier, the real hook twisted, a knock at the door. Sharp and insistent. Security? Or the twist I'd prayed for. The knock echoed like a gavel in a courtroom of ghosts. And Mom's composure shattered first. Her heels clicking as she cracked the door. No burly guards. No flashing badges. Just a lanky kid in a waiter's vest. Tray balanced precariously. Eyes wide with the awkwardness of eavesdroppers. Champagne refill. Ma'am, he mumbled. But his gaze snagged on the folder in my hand. The tension thick as fog off the East River. Dad snatched the moment, lunging for the papers. Give me that. Ethan, his fingers grazed mine. Ethan's fingers, callous from squash games at the club, and I twisted away, slamming the folder shut like a Bible at a funeral. Not so fast, old man. I backed toward the sideboard, mind racing. The kid hovered, sensing drama like a tabloid vulture. But Aunt Lydia waved him off with a 20 and a glare that could curdle cream. He vanished, door snicking shut, leaving us in the stew of our unraveling. Stella Ethan in my skin, slid into an armchair, face ashen, clutching the armrests like they were lifelines. Stella, tell me this is some prank. Body swap? Drugs? I woke up in your rat hole apartment. Head pounding.
And now.
This. He gestured wildly at himself. At the curves and scars that were mine. The faint tattoo on my wrist from a rebellious spring break in Miami. A dove in flight. Ironic now. I knelt before him. Our eyes level. Twin reflections in a funhouse mirror. No prank. The ritual. It was revenge. Ethan. For taking the fall. But if you're in, we end this together. Dad's the puppet master. Mom's the strings. Lydia's got the proof. He searched his face, for lies. And found none. Or maybe just the truth he feared. I didn't mean for you to go down.
The debts. Poker nights got out of hand.
Dad said he'd handle it. Said you were unstable. That it'd look like your screw-up. His voice cracked. Ethan's polish peeling to raw boy beneath. I was scared. Yale dropout. No trust fund parachute. You were always the strong one. Strong one. The words stung like salt in a fresh wound. Because I'd been forging art in lofts while he partied, covering his tracks with alibis and loans. Betrayal's blade cuts deepest from kin, and here it was, twisting. But pity?
Nah.
That was for Hallmark cards. This was pay dirt. Mom whirled on him, her Chanel unraveling at the seams. You ungrateful brat. We saved you, saved the family. Stella was collateral. A necessary sacrifice for the greater good. Greater good. Spoken like a banker foreclosing on dreams. Her eyes cold as the diamond choker at her throat. Dad poured another scotch. Knuckles white. Enough. This stays in the family. Ethan, burn those papers. Stella, get out. Or I'll have you committed. Again. Committed. The word hung. A ghost of rubber rooms and electroshock threats from my recovery phase. But I was done cowering. I flipped open the folder, reading aloud in a voice that carried like a closing argument. Evelyn Harlan to counsel. Ensure Stella's confession implicates her fully. Ethan's involvement minimal. Redirect to her erratic behavior. I looked up, meeting Dad's glare. Erratic? That's code for inconvenient truth teller. I found the ledgers. Dad. The ones you thought I'd flushed with my sketches. Aunt Lydia nodded. Her silence a weapon honed over decades. She'd been Mom's sister once. Before the marriage moneyed her out. Before she clawed her way back as the family archivist. Keeper of skeletons. It's all here. Harlan. The bribes to the DA. The planted evidence in Stella's apartment. You built an empire on lies. And it's crumbling. The room pulsed with tension. Air thick as a summer blackout. And outside. The party's murmur swelled. Laughter. Clinking glasses. Oblivious to the implosion. Stella stood. Shaky but resolute. We go public.
Now.
I call the press. Ethan's contacts. Dad laughed. A bark devoid of mirth. You? In her body? They'd lock you up as a junkie ranting conspiracies. He advanced, looming over his son in drag. But I stepped in. Ethan's bulk a shield. Touch her, me, and the folder goes viral. I've got backups. Dad. Cloud drives. Dead man switches. One tap. And it's Bloomberg headlines by dawn. Mom's facade cracked then. Tears smearing mascara like war paint. Please. Children. We're Harlans. We don't air dirty laundry. Think of the legacy, your inheritance. The penthouses. The summers in the vineyard. Inheritance. The carrot dangled since crib days. But for me, it was always just out of reach. Stella the artist. Not suited for boardrooms. Ethan got the keys, I got the scraps. Legacy. I spat. Your legacy's a house of cards soaked in my blood. I did 5 years for your fuck-ups. Smiled for the cameras at my fresh start, while you toasted Ethan's promotions. Ethan in my skin grabbed my arm, urgency in his grip.
Stell.
The swap. It's fading. I feel it tingles like static. What if we switch back mid-reveal? The warning hit like ice water. The old woman's words echoed. One moon cycle. Then the soul's reclaim. We'd bought time, not eternity. Panic clawed up my throat, but I shoved it down. Then we move fast. Confront them here. Record it all. I pulled out Ethan's phone, my new lifeline, hitting record as subtly as a pickpocket in a crowd. Smile for posterity.
Folks.
Harlan family therapy session. Dad's eyes narrowed to slits, calculating like a hostile takeover. You think you're clever? I've crushed bigger threats than a body-swapping bitch and her junkie brother. He lunged again, this time for the phone. And chaos erupted, Mom shrieking, Lydia dodging, Ethan tackling Dad in a tangle of limbs and curses. I hit send on the partial clip to a burner email, then joined the fray, prying Dad off with a knee to the gut that winded him like a bad quarterly report. Enough, I roared, Ethan's voice booming authority I never knew. We disentangled, panting, the room a battlefield of toppled chairs and spilled scotch. In the standoff, truth spilled like the liquor. Dad confessed in fragments, rage unspooling the yarn. It was for us, all of it. The scheme kept the lights on during '08, Ethan's tuition. Your, Stella's, damn art school whims. Whims. My MFA. The one I'd funded with loans that were really bailouts for his mistresses. Ethan, trembling in my frame, whispered, I knew about the bribes.
Dad.
Helped place them. Thought it was victimless. Rich marks. Right? Victimless. Tell that to the retirees who'd lost nest to the scam. Mom sobbed, collapsing into Lydia's arms. Ironic. The betrayer betrayed. I did it for love. For him.
Love.
The dirtiest four-letter word in a boardroom. Aunt Lydia disentangled gently, her voice steel. Love's no excuse for ruin. I buried it all those years because blood's thicker, but seeing Stella wasted away. No more. She turned to me, eyes softening. The ritual, your great-gram's gift. Use it wisely, girl. The tingles hit me then, a shiver racing up Ethan's spine, mirroring in my old body's hunch. Time was bleeding out. We end this, I said, dialing the governor's number from Ethan's contacts, speed dial 3. After Mom and the broker. Governor? Ethan Harlan. We need to talk rezoning. And fraud. The call connected. Dad's protests drowned in static. And as I spilled the beans, names, dates, accounts, the party's music swelled outside, a mocking waltz to our downfall. But midway through, the twist gut punched, the governor chuckled, low and knowing. Stella, that you? Been expecting this call. Lydia tipped me weeks ago. Lydia, my ally, or the ultimate schemer. She met my gaze, unblinking. Family's complicated.
Dear.
But justice? That's clean. The line went dead. Sirens wailing faint in the distance. And the whole circus rolling up to the plaza like a bad sequel. Dad slumped. Defeated. Mom wailed. Ethan clutched my hand, his hand, and whispered. Switching. Now. The world blurred. Souls yanking like magnets, and I tumbled back into my skin, slight, scarred, familiar as an old bruise. Ethan blinked in his body, disoriented but whole. We stood, sisters and brothers in ruin, as the doors burst open again, this time for real.
Cops swarmed.
Cuffs glinting under the chandelier's glow. But not for us.
For them.
Dad and Mom. Red rights in the city that never sleeps on scandal. The crowd outside erupted in flashes. Phones capturing the Harlan implosion live on TikTok and Threads. We watched from the sidelines. Lydia's arm around my shoulders. Ethan's hand in mine. Revenge tasted like ash and champagne. Sweet and sour. But as the squad cars peeled away, the real controversy brewed. Was it justice? Or just another power play? Lydia's smile said she held the strings now, family empire hers by default. And me, Stella Harlan. Free at last, but haunted by the what-ifs. Had I become the monster to slay one? The aftermath hit like a nor'easter off the Atlantic, relentless, churning everything familiar into froth. By dawn, the Harlans were front-page fodder. Real estate mogul's empire crumbles in anniversary arrest, the post screaming in 72-point type. With a blurry shot of Dad in cuffs, Mom's mascara rivers immortalized. Ethan and I holed up in my old apartment, the one with the leaky faucet and view of a brick wall, nursing coffees black as our moods. Lydia had vanished into the night, promising cleanup, her parting gift a flash drive of every dirty secret digitized and lawyered up. You think she's the real villain? Ethan asked, slouched on the sagging couch that smelled of takeout and regret. His face, our face, gaunt from the swap's toll, looked older, etched with lines that prison had carved into me. I shrugged, sketching idly on a napkin, a crumbling skyline, figures toppling like dominoes. Villain?
Nah.
She's the editor, cut the fat, rewrote the ending. Dad was the author, Mom the illustrator. Us, we were the discarded drafts. Art school whims. Indeed. My lines flowed freer now, unburdened by family scripts. He nodded, sipping scalding Joe. The swap. Fucked me up.
Stell.
Woke up yesterday thinking I was you, panicking over rent, dodging calls from bill collectors. Felt your rage. Bone deep. He paused, eyes distant. I'm sorry. For all of it.
Sorry.
The word hung, fragile as rice paper. And I wanted to hate him, really hate him for the years stolen, the cell block nights plotting escape. But blood's a stubborn stain. It binds even when you bleach it out.
Yeah. Well.
Apologies don't rewind time. But you're clean now, no debts. No shadows. Make it count. He stood, awkward in the cramped space, and pulled me into a hug that smelled of fresh starts and faint cologne. We both are.
What now?
For you?
Now.
The question loomed like the Verrazano on a foggy commute. Prison had stripped my Rolodex, my rep a toxic spill in the art world, galleries whispering fraud's daughter behind velvet ropes. But the scandal? It was rocket fuel. By noon, my inbox pinged, invites from Vice for an exposé, MoMA scouts sniffing raw authenticity, even a Netflix true crime pitch titled Swapped and Scorned. I laughed, bitter and bright. Rebuild. My way. No Harlan strings, but as he left, promising weekly brunches ironic. Given our history, the doubts crept in. Revenge's high fades fast, leaving you hollow as a gutted brownstone. Weeks blurred into a gritty montage, depositions in fluorescent-lit federal buildings, where prosecutors salivated over Dad's ledgers like wolves on Wall Street scraps. Ethan testified clean, His Yale charm redirecting blame to parental pressure, walking with immunity, and a therapy mandate. Mom? She lawyered up in a spa-like halfway house, spilling tea on Dad's mistresses for leniency. Dad rotted in Rikers. Pre-trial. His empire auctioned off in fire sale chunks, Hudson Yards parcels to Chinese syndicates. The vineyard estate to a tech bro with zero taste. Lydia emerged as the Phoenix, rebranding Harlan Holdings as Lydia Legacy Partners, eco-friendly flips and affordable housing buzzwords masking the blood money. She called me one gray afternoon. Voice honey over steel. Join me, Stella. Your eye for detail, the art of it all. We could redefine the skyline. I stared out my window at the fire escape. Rain sluicing like tears. Redefine? Or rewrite?
You orchestrated this, didn't you?
The tip to the governor. The folder, hell. Maybe even the voodoo whisper that led me to that shop. Silence. Then a chuckle like dry leaves. Family's a chessboard.
Dear.
I just moved the queen. You checkmated the king.
Click.
Line dead. The controversy ignited online. X threads dissecting our saga like a bad reality show. Harlan swap trending with fan art of soul-exchanging siblings. Podcasters debating if the body switch was metaphor or madness. I never confirmed. Let them speculate. Feminists hailed me as the avenging daughter. Conservatives decried family destruction for clicks. Debates raged in dive bars and boardrooms. Was my revenge heroic? Or just vengeful poison? Did the ends justify the soul rape of the swap? I dodged it all. Diving into a solo show at a Bushwick warehouse, fractured frames, raw canvases of mirrored betrayals. Bodies half-sketched in oil and ash. Opening night. The crowd swelled, hipsters in ironic tees. Critics with notepads. Even Ethan. Fidgeting in chinos. Proud of you, sis, he murmured. And for once, it landed true. But the climax waited in the shadows. A letter slipped under my door post-midnight. Postmarked Rikers. Dad's scrawl. Shaky as his empires fall. Stella girl. You think you won? Lydia's the poison, always was. She forged the memos. Planted the seeds. Wanted the throne. Check the safe deposit box. 472 at Chase Midtown. Forgive? Never. But no. My pulse thundered. The twist reversing like a plot hole in a bestseller. Lydia? The savior. Or the serpent coiled deeper. I cabbed to Midtown. The city a neon blur. Key trembling in the bank's vault chill. Box 472. Not cash. But photos, grainy shots of Lydia in '08. Huddled with brokers. Signatures matching the fraud docs. A note in her hand. Harlan's downfall equals my rise. The truth inverted. A Mobius strip of deceit.
Dad.
The monster I toppled. Fingering the ally who'd armed me. Or was it his final gambit? Smearing from the grave of his cell? I burned the photos in my sink that night. Flames dancing like the ritual candle. But the doubt lingered. A cancer in the gut. Months later, at a quiet dinner Ethan, Lydia at some overpriced Soho bistro, the tension simmered under small talk about stock dips and Rothko ripoffs. She raised her glass, eyes gleaming. To new beginnings. I clinked, smile sharp. To truths uncovered. Ethan shifted, oblivious or willfully blind. As we parted, her whisper brushed my ear. You kept the photos quiet. Smart girl. We make a hell of a team. Team. Or trap. The ending dangled. Ambiguous as a Hopper painting, me walking into the night. Free but fractured. Empire's ashes fertilizing my path. Happy? In the American dream way. Sure. Survivors striking out solo. Canvas blank for reinvention. Tragic? If you count the souls scarred. The family fissioned beyond fusion. Debated over beers. Reader, was vengeance the spark of justice? Or the fuse to mutual destruction? In the city that devours its young, I chose to thrive on the scraps. But some nights, staring at the Hudson's black mirror, I wonder if the swap ever really ended, if parts of Ethan, of Dad, of Lydia, didn't linger in my skin, plotting the next move. And that's the real hook in Revenge's game. No one's the hero. We're all just players, waiting for the board to flip.